world, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Keely and I make crazy hair. I make book related content and I'm currently doing some independent study to eventually apply for a PhD. My hair's gonna drive me crazy. Kind of better. Well, whatever. I am downstairs right now, which is why my background looks different. I'm at my dining room table. My kitchen is behind me. I just finished baking some chocolate chunk banana walnut bread for myself and my husband, and then I made a second loaf to take to our friend's house for his birthday for game night. But I wanted to jump on here and get started on a new vlog. I am working, but I'm about to have a lunch break. I'm going to start a Coursera course called Asian American History and Identity and Anti-Racism Toolkit, which is a free course from the University of Colorado Boulder. And I'm just going to sit here and watch the lectures and take some notes. I have my notebook here, and then I also made myself a little latte in my It Gets Worse glass that I got from TJ Maxx. They had like so many cute ones. They have a ton right now of like ones with mushrooms, one with like a plaid, and then I saw this one that says It Gets Worse with a smiley face, and I was like, that's perfect. So I decided to grab that one. I also brought 2 books down with me. I will be also diving into the next chapter of Where Research Begins, and then also reading more of Flowers of Fire. This one, I've read the first couple chapters and it's very interesting so far, introducing us to the main, I was gonna say the main character. She's not a character, she's an actual person. The main woman that kind of started the Me Too movement in Korea based on what she was seeing in the United States and other parts of the world, and then based on her own experience. And so far it's talking about being an attorney in South Korea and how hard that was and still is as a woman, because it's a very male dominated field. I think the author said in the 80s there were like 0 women lawyers in South Korea. So it's just really interesting reading about gender and other countries. Really enjoying that one. This one is really going to be a huge help for stuff that I'm interested in for my PhD. I am just acting as if this is what I'm doing, like I'm actually getting one. That would be amazing. Like trying to envision myself in a PhD program to help keep me motivated, keep me reading and working towards it. I want to get an outline going over the next couple of weeks. Like if by, what month are we in? We're in April. If by the end of May, I have like a solid outline for a paper or even like an introduction going, that would be amazing, because I have to write a 15 to 20 page paper for the application, and I'm waiting for 2 books in the mail. One will be here tomorrow. One is on the obsession with the Orient and the othering of people that live in Asian cultures and Asian societies, and obsession with Asian women. And that one I will be reading for like general knowledge, but also because it's what I want to study for a PhD. And then next week, a book should be arriving called Queer Asias, and that's what I'm hoping to write my paper on. They really just want a writing sample. Like my paper doesn't have to necessarily be what I want to study. I also would like to get started on my personal statement, because that's another piece of writing that you have to have for a PhD application. I haven't written one of those since 2013 when I went to grad school. And I know that that statement doesn't necessarily have to be what you end up studying, but because I've been working towards like figuring out what I do want to study, I think it's getting easier for me to get to the point where I can write that. There are some other easier pieces along the way that they need, like transcripts. That's very easy to get. My resume, also easy to get because I have updated it many times. I've applied for jobs, so it's pretty up to date. So I just want to make sure that that reflects all of my schooling. And yeah, I'm just trying to pull together the pieces in my head that I will need to apply for a PhD program. And I still need to go through the Accepted Society's free courses that they created for applications. So I want to do that. I have a meeting in a couple minutes, so I have to hop into the meeting, and then another one later this afternoon. But other than that, I will be getting some tasks done and then also working on other things, trying to get more reading done, because I didn't finish, I think, any of the books that I wanted to finish in the last vlog. So I really want to try to get some of those done. Also find some chapstick, because I'm just now noticing how chapped my lips are. But let me go ahead and get back into it. Okay, time for a reading update. I am into part 4 of The Making of Asian America, so I want to read some of the next chapter in this one today. I have also been reading more of In Order to Live and went through and tabbed stuff off, and I'm about halfway through it now, just over halfway. Really enjoying this one. Definitely interested to see how it is going to play out, like what's going to end up happening. So Yeonmi and her family are from North Korea, and she talks a lot about growing up and what it was like at different ages and the kind of societies of North Korea and the things that they were taught and things that students had to do, that community has to do to survive. I'm now to the point where she has just escaped and is trying to survive that way. And some really horrific things have happened so far to her and her mom. And I think, unfortunately, it's going to continue until she gets a little bit older, and we'll see how it ends up playing out. I mean, obviously she's alive and wrote a book and is hopefully doing much better, but it looks like, or it's seeming like she had a really hard time when they first escaped, trying to find a safe place to live and find people who they could trust. So I'm going to be reading that one. Also, like I said, going to be reading this one. Those are really the 2 books that I am focusing on for today. I finished Welcome to the Hyeonamdong Bookshop last night and really enjoyed that one. I thought it was great. I got it from my library. So yay, finally finished a book. It's been a little while since I finished one, and now I am just going to focus on getting more of these books read. Okay, I have another reading update and a sleeping doggy. Well, she's awake right now, but tiny doggy. I'll put the blanket on her because she's cold. She prefers to be covered in a blanket anyway. I have been reading more of In Order to Live, and I am about, I'd say like almost 2/3 of the way through it. I just got all of the pictures that she included in it. This one is so brutal, and it's about her life, obviously. I know I've said that before, but I didn't realize how much of it was going to be talking about human trafficking, which really sucks and is really hard to read about. Learning about the human trafficking process that's happening in China from people escaping from North Korea, and that whole thing is pretty brutal and really upsetting. And I'm enjoying this one because of how much I'm learning and because she's a good author, but holy crap, it's really shitty what's happening. And it's obviously not the only place in the world that human trafficking is happening. Human trafficking happens everywhere, but it's just really hard to read about. But I am hoping I can finish this one this weekend. And then I got one in the mail, but honestly, this one is going to be pushed down the list, unfortunately, because I want to read it right away. But this one is The Asian Mystique by Sheridan Prasso, and this is Dragon Ladies, Geisha Girls, and Our Fantasies of the Exotic Orient. This one, along with Edward Said's Orientalism, are 2 of the main books that I will be reading and working my way through for thinking about my potential PhD. I gotta stop saying potential PhD. I want to do one, I will do one. I have to keep manifesting that. I want to do one, I will do one. I will be in a PhD program at some point. That is my ultimate goal. But this one and Edward Said's Orientalism are the 2 books that are kind of like the main ones that I have at the forefront of my brain, followed by Flowers of Fire, which is about feminism in South Korea. And there are some books about feminism and gender roles in China and lots of other places, but I think those are going to be kind of like the main focus. I took my journal yesterday and I wrote down some like general ideas, things that I'm interested in that I can include in my letter or my like personal letter that you have to write, like your statement of what you want to research and why. And included in that was like slavery in maritime Asia, women particularly being enslaved, and immigration and human trafficking and all of those things. And then also queer identity, East Asian identities, ever-changing identities, Asian American identities, because I have a lot of books now on Asian America, and I'm getting more memoirs from Asian American authors and people that have immigrated to the United States, so either first generation or second generation. And those are the kind of like overarching goals of things that I want to look at. So I think I've narrowed it down that for like my essay that I'm going to write is going to be on queer Asia, queer identities, and then the statement letter is going to be more broad, taking a step back, looking at identity formation, queer theory, identity theory, all of the things. And I just have to figure out how to make that really cohesive and make the statement make sense of like, these are the things that I want to look at and these are the things that I'm interested in, and then try to come up with the right amount of resources and like backup research things that I can be looking at in the meantime to help support that, so that it's not like, you know, I'm writing my paper of like, I think this is interesting, and then they'd be like, okay, well, have you read this? And I'm like, no, like that is not what I want at all. I would love it if they ask of like, well, have you looked at this person's research or this person's or something? And I have no idea if that's what they would ask, but this is just in my head of like, if they say, you know, have you read this book or this book or this book? I would love for it to not be like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about the whole time. That's kind of what I'm thinking. The book that I bought, Queer Asias, will be here Monday, and I travel Monday for work in the afternoon or like evening time. I'll be on the road for a couple hours. So I'm really hoping that it will get here before I leave so that I can take it with me and then start reading it. Obviously not while I'm driving, but read it when I'm in the hotel. I think that would be really cool. Otherwise, I will have to get it when I get back later next week. The plan for up until I am traveling is to definitely finish this one. And then after this one, I don't know if I want to read Minor Feelings or a different one. I think I might pick up Minor Feelings. I'm not sure in terms of which memoir I want to read, but I do want to get this one finished because I am enjoying it, and I want to get to the part where she is with her family instead of being trafficked and see how her life turns out. But very much enjoying this one. Happy that I'm getting a lot of reading done. I finished the chapter earlier in The Making of Asian America, the very first chapter for part 4. And so I only have a couple chapters left for the book, and then it's like the epilogue and the follow-up and all of that. So the book is only like 100 pages. If you include all of that, I only have like 100 pages left of the book, which is pretty amazing. I would be super thrilled if I could finish that by the end of April. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm definitely going to try. For the rest of the day now, I have work for a couple more hours, and I'm just going to keep reading. It is a Friday. So excited that it is Friday. We'll just be spending the rest of the night hanging out. I do need to go to the pharmacy, and then we also need to go to Target for a couple things. I have to get friggin' work clothes. Okay, I have some work clothes. I have plenty of work shirts, but I only have one pair of pants that's like business casual. They specifically said in all of the prep emails that they've been sending for work stuff of like, please don't wear jeans. I'm like, but I live in sweatpants, and then my fancy going out clothes are jeans. Like, why do I have to wear annoying business casual pants? So I have to go get at least one more pair of pants because I'm going to be there Tuesday, Wednesday, and I guess I technically could wear the same pair 2 days in a row, but I don't really want to. And then that, like, what happens if I get something on them? That's not good. Like, I should have a backup pair of work pants because I will also be traveling again in the future for work. I am dragging ass today. It is like 2:30, yeah, almost 2:45. And I am just so tired. My eyes keep doing this like weird wonky fuzzy thing where I'm just having a hard time focusing, and then I'm getting like pain in my head. And I think it's because I've just been staring at screens for so long. And like, full disclosure, I took Monday off because I was feeling terrible, and then I don't have any like accrued paid time off. So I'm just kind of putting in really long days to make up for it, which sucks. Having mental health and being a full-time employee, like having mental health issues and being a full-time employee is really freaking hard sometimes. And I feel like we don't talk about that as hard as it is. Like obviously some people talk about it, but I just feel like with my YouTube channel, trying to be as open and honest as I can within reason. I'm not sharing my entire life here, but like open and honest, because I do really appreciate it when other creators make a safe space or make a space on the internet where you can talk about like, yeah, mental health sucks and I have a hard time with it sometimes. And the hard times make it harder than to be okay during the okay times, because I'm kind of making up for the hours that I took off when I was having a hard time, which sucks. But it's okay. All will be okay. My husband will be home in like an hour or so, and I'm just going to continue working on this invoice and this crap that I'm doing for work, and then take a little short break in probably about an hour just to give my eyes another chance to like zone back out for a little bit, and then get some more reading done for the rest of the night, or play Disney Dreamlight Valley. We'll see which one I feel like doing. Time for an update. I am currently at the hotel for work. I will be here until Wednesday. My husband thankfully was able to work from home for the next few days so that I could have the car to travel for work, which was amazing. So I did that drive today. Tonight, I don't think anyone is doing anything because everyone is traveling in at various points. So I'm just hanging out. I brought some stuff to do though. So I brought 2 books with me. I brought The Making of Asian America by Erica Lee, and then I also brought Minor Feelings by Kathy Park Hong. This one I am almost halfway through. I was reading it more this morning. Really freaking loving this one. I think I said in a previous clip that I finished In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park, and also found that really, really fascinating. I'm just really enjoying reading memoirs right now. I think it's going to be like a spring of memoirs for me. So after I finished that one, I then picked up Minor Feelings, and I'm very much enjoying it. I have not picked up The Making of Asian America in a couple days, but I am into the final section, and I am up to chapter 14, In Search of Refuge, Southeast Asians in the United States. So I do want to get more reading done. I would like to at least read the next chapter tonight if I can. I also am currently watching Kaylin's videos on writing your personal statement, and I have started to do that for the PhD application process. I went through again the list of things that you need, and it's like you need recommendations, haven't figured that out yet. You need a resume, I do have that. You need your transcripts, I will have to gather them all, but that will be pretty easy. It's just like the process of submitting to have them sent over. So the easy parts are like those logistical pieces of like, I have my resume, I can get my transcripts. That shit's easy. The harder parts are the personal statement, the essay, and the recommendations, and then also the GRE. But the GRE I'm pushing out of my brain for right now because that is going to be a long-term thing. But the personal statement is really the part that I'm like, okay, I've been working towards getting to that point, and so now I'm like sitting down, I have it formatted. I want to get some thoughts on paper and then try to flesh them out more. I know that for my essay that I'm going to write, which has to be 15 to 20 pages, that's going to be on queer identities in Asia. But for what I actually want to research, that's the part that I'm needing to flesh out more, like really think about more, because I'm really interested in the relationship between patriarchy and women's bodies. And I found 2 books, potentially 3 books right now that I think are going to be very beneficial. One was Orientalism by Edward Said. The second one was The Asian Mystique, and the third one is crap. I don't remember what it's called, but I found it when I was reading through something else. I was watching or reading something else, and it came up, and it's about Korean women during the Korean War and being forced into prostitution and slavery and women's bodies. And I think it's that war relationship that I'm really fascinated by, like war brides, picture brides, forced prostitution, all of that. So I need to figure out how to get that all down, and then I probably need to narrow it down to a specific region, because I know that war brides existed in a lot of places, especially Japan and Korea, but I think that might be too broad to research for a PhD. So I want to narrow it down more. And I know that there are books about Korea, like Queer Korea, and then also one of the books specifically that I found that I think will be very, very beneficial is on women that have been forced into prostitution as a result of the Korean War. And I just am so fascinated by that. Like, I think that's the main thing that I'm going to be like ideally looking at, is white men from the United States who go to other countries, and then that relationship that they develop with women from other countries, the various aspects of that. So that is what I need to figure out how to get down on paper more succinctly for my personal statement. And I also found an old personal statement. I've actually gotten into grad school a couple times. So I have my master's in social work, but I also got into grad school for a master's of library science. And then I also got into grad school for a master's of criminal justice. But the criminal justice master's didn't end up happening because we moved to Maryland, and that was going to be a Pennsylvania program. And then the Master's of Library Science, I took one course and then I couldn't afford it, and so I haven't continued on, which really sucks. But I found one of those personal statements, and so I don't think I have any of my other personal statements, but at least I have that one. So I can go back and kind of see, like, okay, I've done this 4 times or 3 times. So hopefully I can figure out how to write a 4th one that's a little bit more intense. But I don't know. This is all very exciting and very scary, and I feel like I'm really putting myself out there, but I'm gonna freaking try. So while everyone is still like traveling in and I'm just hanging out for the night, I think I want to try to work on my personal statement and get some reading done. Okay, I owe you guys a reading update. I am now home. As you can tell, I was only traveling for a couple days for work. I spent most of that time working or driving and listening to podcasts. I've been listening to the Factually podcast with Adam Conover. It's been really interesting. And there's an episode that he has on hot dogs. Highly recommend. It was very funny, but informative about hot dogs and the meat packing industry in the United States. But I did not get a ton of reading done, honestly, while I was traveling because I was working and then driving. It took forever to drive, and then ended up watching a ton of Kaylin videos about personal statements and statement of intent and research and all of that stuff. And I think I said before that I thought personal statements had to be like 500 to 1,000 words, but I've looked at other applications and now it seems like personal statements can vary between 250 and 1,000 words. It just depends on the program. So if they don't specify, I think Kaylin said to do 250 to 500 words, but if they do specify, obviously go by what they tell you. So I started working on that. And honestly, it's been really good, but kind of difficult to figure out what I want to say and then how to say it, because in my head it makes sense, but trying to get it written out has been kind of a challenge. So I'm going to keep working on that. And then I have some reading updates, only very minimal reading updates. So the first thing that I've been reading is Fledgling by Octavia Butler. And that is for my work book club. I'm supposed to have Fledgling and Beloved by Toni Morrison completed by the end of this month. It is now the 25th. So definitely not going to happen in terms of having both completed. I will definitely finish Fledgling because I think I'm about 70% of the way through. Really enjoying that one. That's her vampire story. And Beloved I picked up and then put back down and haven't picked back up. So I need to do that, but that will probably honestly get pushed to next month. I believe the book that we're reading next for We're Booked, which is my work book club, will be The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, which is about redlining in the United States. And if you're not from the United States, or if you already don't know what that is, redlining and the things that the government did was they basically set up communities to prevent people of color from getting loans, from being able to purchase property, from being able to purchase houses. And it was like a strategic process to keep people of color down and to prevent them from having any ownership of their lives or of land and be able to have equity and things like that. So I've heard that it's a really powerful book, so I am excited that people seem to be really wanting to read that one. I will also be finishing, hopefully by the end of this month, but we'll see, The Making of Asian America, which would be amazing because I have a book haul to show you guys, and so I want to get that one done so I can get into some other ones. While traveling, the first day that I arrived, I had a bunch of free time in the evening and realized that I was like 5 minutes from a huge Barnes & Noble, and I was like, well, obviously. So that's what I did. I went over to the Barnes & Noble and I purchased a couple of books. A couple are memoirs and then one is not. The first memoir that I got was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And this one I know is going to be really hard to read, but she is the Emily Doe from the Brock Turner case. I think that's his name. The white dude that I believe he either sexually assaulted or raped Emily, and basically throughout the entire case it was publicized because everything was about like, well, we don't want to ruin his career as a college student and all that, and it was complete hot garbage. Like, the dude was a douchebag. Who cares about his college career? But she wrote a story coming forward, or not a story, she wrote her story coming forward and said like, here's what actually happened and this is me. And so I've heard that it's incredibly powerful and should be required reading, so I really want to read that one. The one that I got that is not a memoir is Nono Boy by John Okada, with a new foreword by Ruth Ozeki. I did read almost all of the foreword so far in this one, and Nono Boys were a group of immigrants, Asian Americans, that were in internment camps or concentration camps during World War II in the United States. If you don't know, because they don't really teach it, or at least they didn't when I was in school, that when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the United States government, or like specific actors in the government, freaked out and overreacted and had no basis for doing so, but took all of the Japanese Americans or Japanese immigrants from the West Coast, which is where they were primarily living, and put them into prisons, basically, which were these giant camps that they created in the desert, that were not fully functional. Some of them were still being built while they were moving people in, and then they destroyed or sold off all of their property so that when they were finally released, they had nothing to go back to. And the Nono Boys were a group of men that were given these questions, and two of the questions were like, I will give up all of my rights and affiliation with the Japanese government and love the United States. And the second question was, I will basically willingly join the military. And people were like, no. Some people said yes because they wanted to show that they were American and had nothing to do with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Some people said yes because they didn't understand the questions. They couldn't read the questions. They were very confusing. And then some people said no because, like, why would I join the military of a government that says that I am not a human, and like, why would I fight for them? And then they also said no because they had no affiliation to the Japanese government, or didn't want to become like a United States loyalist, like, you know, a nationalist, whatever. And so the Nono Boys were the men that said no twice and then got put basically in prison and got all their rights taken away, even more so. And a lot of them were like charged formally. So that's what this story is about. It was published originally very shortly after the concentration camps happened. And it was basically panned, and people were like, no, like, this did not happen. This is not realistic. This is horrible. But then afterwards it came out like, no, this is an amazing story and we want this to be published. And so it was republished, and I have seen it before, had no idea what Nono Boy was or what it meant, and then learned more about it, was like, oh, I want to read that story. So that's what that is. Then I also grabbed two memoirs. The first one is All You Can Ever Know by Nicole Chung. And this one is about Nicole, who was a transnational adoptee to the United States. And she always believed that her Korean immigrant parents had made the ultimate sacrifice in giving her the hope for a better life. But feeling that she was slightly out of place as a transnational adoptee, but as she grew older, she realized that there's a lot of prejudice against people in the United States who are not white, and finding her identity, and then also learning more about her parents, her bio parents, and their situation. And then the other one that I got then was this one, which is Taste Like War, a memoir by Grace Cho. And this one is about Grace, who grew up the daughter of a white American merchant marine and the Korean bar hostess that he met abroad. Her mother then experienced the onset of schizophrenia and ended up, I'm not really sure what happened. I'll find out. But she then decided to investigate mental illness and how it is treated overseas in the United States. And this one's supposed to be amazing. So very much interested in that one. Picking up a lot more books from people that are Korean or have written about Korean lives over in Korea during the Korean War, or anytime that there's been a military presence there, a United States military presence, because I'm narrowing down that what I would like to look at for my PhD is particularly war brides, picture brides, slavery, forced prostitution of Korean and Japanese women on behalf of militaries, specifically with the United States military. So that is why I have been grabbing more Korean books. And two books that will be for my one book for my application process and one as part of the PhD. One is Queer Asia, and so this one is Decolonizing and Reimagining Sexuality and Gender, edited by J. Daniel Luther and Jennifer Ong Lo. And this one is a collection of essays and research that were presented at the Queer Asia conferences. I couldn't think of the word. There's been conferences from the Queer Asia kind of collective, and so this is a collection of them, and it's supposed to be amazing. So I'm going to use this as a jumping off point for my writing sample, which will be an essay on queer identities in East Asian, particularly Japanese and Korean. So that's what that is for. And then this one, which I think I talked about, but I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I did talk about this one. This one is The Asian Mystique by Sheridan Prasso, and this one is all about dragon ladies, geisha girls, and our fantasies of the exotic Orient. So this one plus Orientalism by Edward Said are kind of my like basis for wanting to look at Korean and Japanese war brides and forced prostitution and things like that, because of the United States fetish with the Orient or the other. So looking at East Asian as other, particularly Japanese, Korean, and Chinese, and how there's that balance between fetishizing and hating, and thinking about a lot of the older white men that I grew up around and how they were very, very racist towards people of Asian, particularly East Asian, specifically Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Racist towards those groups of people, but then also obsessed with like kung fu movies and samurais and doing tai chi and that kind of stuff. So there's that fine line between love and hate that ends up becoming really harmful. That's what that book is for. And then I have this other collection of books that I got from Book Outlet, which I originally did have a video clip for and then hated it and got rid of it. But I did get some books from Book Outlet. They were having a nonfiction sale. Asian American Histories of the United States by Catherine Choi. And I listened to a podcast episode where she talked about this book. And so I'm very happy that I got a copy, because now I'm very interested in reading it even more so. As soon as I'm done The Making of Asian America, I'll be diving into that one. Then I got the other Ronald Takaki that I was very excited for. This one is A History of Asian Americans, Strangers from a Different Shore. And he also wrote A Different Mirror, and I have A Different Mirror, so I'm excited to have Strangers from a Different Shore. So I will be comparing, well, not comparing like officially, but in my head, building off the knowledge of The Making of Asian America, Strangers from a Different Shore, and Asian American Histories. Hopefully getting good information from all three. Then I also listened to a podcast episode with this author. So this is Kingdom of Characters by Jing Su, and this is the language revolution that made China modern. So this is all about the Chinese language and the process of creating a more standardized Chinese written language. And the podcast episode was super duper interesting. It was all the Factually podcasts. That's where I listen to all of these, and they're so fascinating. So I will try to remember to link that down below. And I grabbed another memoir. This is Biting the Hand, Growing Up Asian in Black and White America by Julia Lee. And then the final one that I grabbed from that pile was Asian American Dreams, The Emergence of an American People by Helen Zia. And I have seen Helen Zia's name before, but I can't remember where, so I need to look that up. But very excited to have all of these books. They will all end up covered with tabs and sticky notes and highlighting and all of that as I am learning more. Other than reading Fledgling and The Making of Asian America, I am still reading Minor Feelings by Kathy Park Hong. So I am now, I don't think I'm really any farther than where I was when I showed it before, but I am really enjoying this one. I also need to get back into Flowers of Fire by Haolang Zhang, really enjoying that one. I also have not picked up in a while Where Research Begins, so I want to do this, get back into this one and read a little bit more. I keep getting tripped up with these sections that want you to create databases because I don't know how to do that yet, so I need to look up how to do that, because that will be really helpful as I'm reading these books, so that I can kind of synthesize my thoughts and get all of the main concepts down in one place so that I can go back and reference them. That will be especially helpful when I'm working on my essay and writing from Queer Asia. But now I have some meetings, back-to-back meetings basically all day today, and then I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon, and then we'll just kind of see how the day plays out. Still playing Disney Dreamlight Valley, still just hanging out, but want to get a lot of reading and a lot of other things done. So I need to take a deep breath and dive into this first meeting.